talk about, every time we talk about cognition in this class, we're going to be talking about the main theorist, Piaget. So if you remember from chapter 2, he was like the little aubergine man who didn't watch the children, little old man with that. And he was one of the first theorists to actually say that children have value, right? I'm going to observe the children, and the children, we're going to see how they think, and then it's going to help us put all this theory together on thinking. Now, I'm going to share the screen with you. His main theory is only 4 sections, right? He only has 4 sections for his main theory. And it's super easy. He basically says our thinking is described all the way up through high school, and then past then it's pretty much a riff on high school thinking. And it really builds, it's a developmental theory, and it builds on each other, meaning that each stage builds on it. You can't just go from stage 1 to stage 4. So again, when we talk about cognitive development, we talk about Piaget. We're going to talk about Piaget all semester. Anytime you see a chapter that says cognitive development, we will be talking about Piaget. Now, again, Piaget was the one who kind of started this all off, but he didn't exactly finish. So we will also talk about the limitations of Piaget. I will ask you the limitations of Piaget. So keep in mind where he's great, and we in the child development community, we really appreciate his beginning of his theories. But just like Pavlov talked about classical conditioning, and then Skinner created operant conditioning on top of that, it's kind of like each theorist will build on itself. Piaget could have used, let's say, an extension to his theory, right? Piaget lived at a time where autism wasn't really on the table. So how would he describe children who were not typically developed? So all his theory is based on the typically developed brain, right? And we're finding a lot of children have different ways of thinking. So even as we go forward, thinking about the limitations, just like the limitations of capitalism, right? Like our society is super hunky-dory until, we make money, and we're always like selling things and buying things and making money and things like that until the entire economy stops. Then the government has to come in and support us with unemployment or whatnot, or this, that subsidy. That's socialism. So every theory, every context has limitations. But let's start with, again, with Piaget. His first stage is sensory motor intelligence. Super easy. Infants, what do? If I gave, let's say I gave an infant this. Oh, this is my back scratcher from Daiso. I literally keep it on my desk and scratch my back. If I gave this to an infant, what would they do? Like a 6-month-old child, what would they do with it?
They would put it in their mouth.
Immediately put it in their mouth, right? There's these things, there's this thing, there's this thing. They could feel a bunch of different things on here, right? If I actually put this in my mouth, what would I be sensing? What would I notice?
All the like ridges that are on the thingy.
Ridges. What else? If I put this in my mouth, what would I know? Ridges.
How it tastes.
Yeah, how it tastes. I have no idea because I'm not gonna put it in my mouth. But I'm assuming like, plastic doesn't really have a taste, but let's say I had lotion on my hand before and I used it, so maybe I'd pick up that, So infants, once they put things in their mouth, they are like learning weird stuff, and nobody's like, oh, that tastes like my vanilla lotion. No, there's not an infant who knows that part, but just interacting with things teaches them things like this moves, and this is smooth, and this is rough, and this has a ridge running down it, and this has a couple of grippies here, and this part's like a little bit more rough, but it moves. Like their brain is learning things just by putting stuff in their mouth. So again, like you could be like kind of playing with them and tickling them, and then all of a sudden your hand goes in their mouth. People like rattling keys in front of kids' eyes, and then the kids like, keys are filthy. Please don't do that. Right? So again, for stage 1, Piaget, sensory motor intelligence. Okay. And what he talks about specifically is when they interact with a toy or something, how they have this primary circular reaction, which is, I'm sorry, no toy here, it's just themselves. Secondary circular reaction has toys. What can I do with this thing? Right? What can I do with this? I'm going to shake it. Let's say it's a rattle. I'm going to shake it. And if I like the sound of that rattle, I'm going to keep shaking it, right? So it's this circular reaction. I shake it, I like it, I shake it some more, I like it, right? Keep shaking it. The tertiary reaction means that they do something, but they want to know more, right? So basically on this one, maybe it's a rattle, and then all of a sudden I notice these things are twirling. And so now I want to touch it. And notice the kids are a little bit older. So at the basic baby, they have find their own thumb. I like my thumb. I'm going to keep sucking it because I like my thumb. I'm going to keep sucking it. And then this one is a toy. I like the toy. I'm going to keep rattling it. This one is I'm building something with blocks. You know how kids do that? They stack things and then they knock them over. So it's not just building. What blocks were made to be built, right? Not necessarily to be knocked over, but okay. But when blocks get knocked over, what else happens?
It makes a sound.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It makes a sound. So you'll get a kid who's like, they build the blocks and then they knock them over and they're like, ooh, what else can I do? So then you'll get kids who sit down and just take the 2 blocks and start knocking them together. It made sound before. How come it's not making sound now? And then maybe they'll start to do, it's basically this level, right? So first it's me, then it's me and a toy, and then it's me and a toy, and what else can I do? So again, Piaget noticed this just by observing children. And so make sure you know the primary, secondary, and tertiary reactions. The part of the chapter kind of breaks each one down into kind of substages. And it's really interesting because, again, he was able to figure out within the first year from birth to 1 month reflexes, and from 1 to 4 months, they start to do certain things, right? Yeah, so Ashley says, my parents would always put gloves and booties on me so I wouldn't suck. They'd say I'd crawl to the nearest object and start sucking on it. Yeah, because that is a reflex. Every baby wants to suck. And by the way, it's soothing. Okay, let's look at the next one. It's soothing. It's soothing. So if you notice, this itty bitty baby doesn't quite have the thumb. Oh, she'll get that thumb soon. Just the thumb only. Right? And once she adapts, because like this might feel good, but a thumb might feel better because it's further in the mouth and it hits more of the receptors and it feels more like a nipple maybe. And so once the adaptation, she's not going to go back to the fist if the thumb's doing a better job. Yeah. So you see the brain build on itself, right? And again, the secondary circular reactions breaks down into attempts to make interesting things last. It's kids who will just play with the same toy for a while. Now, with an infant, it could be like 30 seconds or 3 minutes. It's not like 3 hours, right? And then again, they also start to learn, if I do this, then I'm going to get that. They start getting really creative. Now, around the age of 9 months, they start to understand when objects are here or when objects disappear. What? So when kids are really little, like super little, and they're playing with the toy and you don't want them to play with the toy anymore, you can take it away from them. Let's say it's time to eat. Oh, it's time. They're holding a toy. They're like, oh no, it's time to eat. So you want to get that toy out of their view. When they're little, under 9 months, you can take that toy and hide it, and it's off. It's disappeared. They will not look around your back. They will not they might be sad that the toy is gone, but they don't know, their brain hasn't figured out any other options. Now, after the age of 9 months, they start to be like, hey, where'd that toy go? Do you see how the brain is starting to get more sophisticated? And so if you take something away from a child around 9 months and they start looking for it, or even if you did it right in front of their face and you just put a blanket on top of it, they won't even lift the blanket up until about 9 months. Now, some kids are a little bit earlier, some kids are a little bit later, but this peekaboo is part of it. This is why peekaboo is so fascinating. So let's say that little girl, or I think this is a little boy in the picture. Let's say the little boy is 6 months old, right? And so he doesn't have object permanence. Once things disappear, they're gone, right? After 9 months, once things disappear, he's going to try to look for them, right? But right now, let's say at 6 months, when sister is covering her face, she's gone. She's disappeared off the face of there's no sister there. I see hands. And he can't even really connect that those are sister's hands. It takes brain power and brain exuberance and all these different neural pathways to figure those things out. And as we get more and more and more and more, we get more sophisticated and we learn as we grow. So at 6 months old, when you go like this, it's like sister's gone. And then sister's here. Oh, and sister's gone again. And sister's here. Even if you play peekaboo at this stage, at when they start to get object permanence and you cover up your face, they'll actually reach for your hands. Move your hands out of the way. I want to see your face. So right now, it's super fascinating to him because where'd she go? She is gone. She disappeared into a wormhole, right? And then I came back. The space-time continuum has been restored, right? It's so fun to see how kids' brains develop, and you can kind of put a little marker on it. You know, I wish there was more like age-appropriate developmental like baby books that said like the age in which this child learned object permanence, or the age which they were able to have the secondary or tertiary circular reactions. That would be hilarious to have, like, you know, that book for child development majors. So again, and here's another tidbit. At 9 months, this part of the growth of the brain, again, it could be 10 months, it could be 8 months, but it's around 9 months. As we look at chapter 7 next week, we're going to see this 9 month correlate to stranger anxiety. Yeah. So it's kind of like this little road marker. This 9 month road marker is like, oof, it's gotten to this good point where it can start to, this brain or this child can start to figure out its environment, its bubble a little bit bigger. So I want to make sure you have it in there. And the next piece of cognitive theory that we talk about is information processing. So just like the brain is like a computer, theorists who just study information processing think about the brain, how it gets information, how it stores it, and how it recalls it. Again, we learned about like, let's see here. Let's see. Oh, Ashley said that when her mom woke up, she could speak more English. That means that she was storing some of that information and something allowed her to recall it, which is really kind of interesting. So same with babies. When they're getting more information in, how does it get stored and how does it get recalled? So again, information processing approach is one of the other theories that we look here. Okay. What I want to show you now is this visual cliff piece. Man, my computer's going really, really slow. There's a time where children's vision and their brain start to work together, and there's a place where they have to like look around and kind of, again, putting it all together is pretty amazing. So let me see if I can get up this video from the module, because this is a really good one. Visual cliff is basically a very safe experiment. It could look or perceptively look slightly dangerous or slightly could be injurious to a child, but it's not. It's very safe, and it's being tested all the time. I guarantee it's being tested right now. It shows us where the baby's brain is at, and it's very adaptive. It's very smart. Even though it's limited, it's very, very smart. And let's see what we got here. Yes. Again, inside of the module, be sure to look at those videos that support the learning in here, because I know many of you are those visual learners. So this is a great, great video. It's going to take a second. I don't know if you guys are going to be...
Emotion is a nonverbal language.
Hold on, it's going a little slow.
Emotions reveal the cognition, the understanding of the baby. And furthermore, emotions are the nonverbal communication of the baby towards the parent and the parent towards the baby. So therefore, I thought that emotions were one royal road to the study of the baby's development.
In this study, Babies between 9 and 12 months are brought into the lab and placed on a large plexiglass top table.
Hold on, frozen on the notes. It's frozen on this. Can you guys see it yet?
No, it's still the notes.
Okay, let me see if I can do this. Let me do this. Okay, I'm gonna keep it small. I'm gonna try to optimize it, but it might go slow. And I'm gonna keep it small inside of YouTube, so you'll see all the stuff on the side, but also the stuff on the side is kind of cool for deep dive. And also, again, we're talking about visual cliff here. You'll see other videos on visual cliff, which is really cool. Can you see the screen now? Like the video starting?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yay, I started it over. Thank you.
Emotion is a nonverbal language.
Did you tell me to this?
Emotions reveal the cognition, the understanding of the baby. And furthermore, emotions are the nonverbal communication of the baby towards the parent and the parent towards the baby. So therefore, I thought that emotions were a royal road, one royal road, to the study of the baby's development.
Now, just to be clear, he's talking about emotions, but emotions, again, are brain-based, right? They're not, like your emotions aren't housed in your heart, right? They're housed in your brain, actually. So he's looking at emotions as a window to the brain processes. And so this also shows you that our domains between the physical body, the cognitive body, and the emotions, they all kind of overlap in a good way. This is great. We're not just separate robots. We all kind of mishmash together.
In this study, babies between 9 and 12 months are brought into the lab and placed on a large plexiglass top table. Half of the table has a checkerboard pattern just underneath the surface. But halfway across is a visual cliff, which the baby can tell drops off steeply. The plexiglass top continues, so it's perfectly fine to proceed. But the baby isn't.
So now we're looking at a little girl who's probably around 9 months. She's crawling. She's not I mean, she could be able to stand, but she's just crawling right now. And this includes the parent, right? So you're going to see the parent kind of enticing the baby to come over that visual cliff. So at 9 months, not verbal. Usually the first words around 10 months, maybe 12, around there. And maybe she can say dat or mama, that kind of situation. But so we have a nonverbal child who's under the age of 1 year, who's still very protective of their body, which is interesting. So it shows you our brain has very protective strategies. And FYI, inside the middle of the brain is all the protective stuff. All the run from a predator and stay alive and make sure you breathe and make sure you eat and that kind of stuff. It's all on the inside of the brain. The sophisticated first world stuff is all on the big side, right? So we have a little baby here who's able to figure things out or look around for social cueing to figure things out and can be enticed by a toy or somebody else. It's called social cueing, right? To look if you're, again, if we were all in the classroom and a fire alarm went off, or just every once in a while our alarm system would go beep, everybody looks at me to see what's next, right? And so same thing, social cueing. Cool stuff.
So sure. And this is a big drop for a baby just starting to crawl.
Ooh, feet first?
She wants to get across to get the toy. But she's cautious and looks to the opposite end of the table where her mother is.
Whoa.
The parent is instructed to smile or make a fear face.
If the mother is posing a fear face, the baby typically does not cross this stair-step downward, this modified visual cliff or visual step. On the other hand, if the mother poses a smile or somehow poses a nonverbal communication that is not prohibitive but encouraging, the child is much more likely to cross over to her. This particular study demonstrates the role of nonverbal communication in determining the child's behavior in uncertain contexts. A baby will, when they encounter something ambiguous, something uncertain, will typically look to the significant other, the mother, the father, a grandparent, the caregiver, in order to figure out what to do. So by 11 to 12 months of age, the baby is already doing what all of us do when something unusual happens. We look around to figure out how other people are reacting.
So really cool. So I'm going to cancel this one. Look at that. There's another one called The Baby's on the Brink. Now, Ashley put in the group chat, in high school, the fire alarms would go off at least twice a week. In the years I was there, no one was fazed by alarms anymore. It's called habituation. Like, you're like, the first couple times you're like, and other times you're just like, habituation can account for a lot of things in our life. Like if you guys are in the community, you're driving home, and for some reason, because of the work that I used to do in the mental health community, I can see that person a mile away. Or I could be the person, standing in line for Starbucks, and like the homeless person that approaches me. Like, so it's one of those things, like when you get desensitized to something, you're habituated to it. So same thing happens in our brain. We learn real quick. Is that an important, right? It's almost like an alarm. Like I have my alarm cubes, and every once in a while my alarm will go off and I completely don't hear it because I have alarms going off constantly. Sometimes I just miss them completely. Speaking of that, I want to make sure that I'm on alarm system here. Make sure, how are we doing on time? Ooh, very good. All right, so what do you guys think about visual cliff? What did you guys notice? What did you notice in there? Anything new?
Most of them started going feet first.
Yeah, and they're not saying, oh, Mom, should I go feet first? Is that really interesting? And you also saw the anxiety on the face. They're kind of like a little bit timid right here, looking at Mom. And again, the mom's job is all just to do nonverbal. That's it. She's not supposed to say, okay, come on, you're safe, right? She was just supposed to smile or frown or whatnot. Yeah, so isn't that really cool that a baby can be that sophisticated in a way? Yeah, and then once they determine safety, they just crawl right across it. FYI, my cat was the worst at that. So we would have your counter in the bathroom. It was like smooth, and all of a sudden there's the carve out of the sink. She was just like, she was just like one of these things, And so I was like, oh, my cat has like the brain of like a 9-month-old. Yay. That kind of situation. So it's really interesting to see, excuse me, how sophisticated a baby can be. It's really kind of cool. And again, that's that cross piece between emotions, the structure of the brain, and the purpose of the brain, or the thinking, the brain thinking. So again, make sure you know what a visual cliff is, because it's really cool. And so that video is in the module. So please, I don't put those things in there for me to watch extra because I got it, but I want you guys to see those things. Now, memory is a part of our brain and how our brain's growing, right? And how our brain's getting stronger. And you'll know this in the first weeks. We talked about this, that babies they know who's what. Even they know the difference between moms. If there's twins, identical twin moms, the babies will know the difference, right? Also, motor memories show up around 3 months. And so if a baby learned to kick their foot and it makes the hanging mobile over their thing move, they're going to do that, right? 9 months is more complex memories. They're going to remember people, smells like grandma and grandpa, things like that. Some people used to believe that infants have amnesia. And so there's kind of a debate that like, do babies forget certain things? I don't think so. I think it just gets stored away in parts of the brain. And sometimes, again, that can be good. Sometimes that can be bad. So like if a baby is experiencing trauma and they kind of, put it away a little bit, it will come out later. Trust me on this one. But I want you guys to know the difference between implicit memory and explicit memory. I do have a really, really annoying video in the module. I'm wondering if I should give it to you guys. It's in there. So implicit memory means like implicit is, think about I am. Implicit is the things that happen to you unconsciously, like, well, obviously breathing and eating and whatnot. I'm very unconscious. You just do it. Also, like if you're driving home from work or school and you just went there on autopilot, you don't even remember how you got there. That has become so ingrained. It's implicit. Explicit is thinking about its external things. Like if I said to you, like, when's the last time you were on an airplane and where did you go? You have to kind of recall different parts of your brain to be like, okay, I went to Seattle and in 2006 and we did this and that, right? So you can recall it and kind of give it out. So implicit memory starts very, very early. It's things that happen inside the body and things that happen very naturally, automatically, without thinking. And then the explicit memory takes a little bit longer to emerge. Typically, don't ask 9-month-olds or 2-year-olds, what did you do last week? Because you know that they're not quite there yet. And so let me see if I can get this one. I've shared this one with my kid, and he sometimes he like jokes around about it because he likes it, but sometimes he's kind of like irritated. But it's a good one, and it helps you definitely remember. So let me get here. Let me go back to the module. Let's see. I'm going to stop the share. There we go. I'm going to go back to the module, and then I'm going to go see if I can find it. This one is actually created by college students, and so that's why I like to show it. And it is connected to a song that was kind of out and about for a long time, maybe before your time, but maybe not. I think it's from the 90s. Okay, hold on. Let me go all the way down. I'm in the modules, but it's kind of like expanding, not expanding, expanding, not expanding. Ah, here we go. Implicit memory versus explicit memory. And let me share this one specifically just with you guys. It is loading. Their talking is really soft, and then they kind of start singing at the end. So it's a little bit soft, and then it gets a little bit loud. So just be aware of that, volume wise. All right, it's taking a minute.
Today we are going to learn about the difference between implicit versus explicit memory. When we learn about memory, one of the most important types of memory is our long-term memory. Humans have two main types of long-term memory: implicit memory and explicit memory. Implicit memory is also known as procedural memory. We use it when we walk, play an instrument, or ride a bike. We are performing a task without consciously thinking about how to perform that task. It is our unconscious recollection of how to procedurally do activities. On the other hand, explicit memory, or declarative memory, is our memory of events that have happened in the past. When we recall these memories, we have to consciously think about them. Explicit memory can be used when remembering a trip you went on, who you went to dinner with yesterday, or even naming all the animals that live on a farm. Because the names of these types of memories are so similar, we used our knowledge from the Psych Memory Unit to create a mnemonic device that will help us and hopefully help you remember them better. Implicit memory we use unconsciously, like when you have to play the right key. Explicit memory takes more thinking, like when you remember your trip to Paris.
One more time.
Implicit memory we use unconsciously, like when you have to play the right key. Explicit memory takes more thinking, like when you remember your trip to Paris. Thanks for watching.
So now every time you hear that song, you're gonna you'll never forget it. It's that annoying. Hopefully it's not stuck in your head all day. So do you guys see the difference? So implicit versus explicit memory, they show up within the first year of life, but implicit comes first. Think of I am, right? And explicit is like outside stuff. You'll get a 4-year-old who's really good at, today we went to the park and we had our lunch and I had an apple and a sandwich. Like 4-year-olds are really good at that kind of stuff, right? But it takes a minute to get there, right? So little kids don't have that right away. But at the same time, memories are adapted and stored under the right circumstances, right? So motivations or emotions are high. So if you really, really love going to the beach, you're going to remember these things really, because if you really love it, you're going to remember that. Like my favorite place on the planet right now is like Monterey, like Central Coast, but like up there a little bit. Not quite San Francisco. I just love it. It's crisp and clean and woodsy and beachy, and you can see whales. Just like standing on the shore, you can see whales. It's just crazy to me. Just beautiful, beautiful. So those memories I have of those places are very vivid, right? Same thing as with kids. If they like they really loved going to a certain place or love grandma and grandpa's house, they're going to have these very, very vivid memories. Same thing are when those emotions those emotions are high in the negative sense. Let's say a child was in some sort of natural disaster, they will remember things, you know, and that goes in there. Whether they recall it right away is different. So a lot of memories get stored, especially when emotions are high. Like, for example, like last semester with COVID, emotions were very, very high. Things are still very like tense, right? Or we're kind of loosening up a little bit, but still emotions are very high. And so this whole year, 2020, is going to be stuck in all of our heads in different ways. Yeah, right? I'm curious to see what little kids notice, right? I'm really, really curious. Retrieval is strengthened by reminders and repetition. So again, with little kids, we're just like, no, we put our shoes on one at a time, or right foot goes on the right foot, left foot goes on the left foot, or no, we don't hit our friends when they have the toy that you want to play with. Hands are for nice, or as a reminder, we share with our friends. So a lot of retrieval, or hey, do you remember what to do now when you come in and put your backpack away? What do we do next? So a lot of reminders and things like that. So so changes in brain dendrites and neurons facilitate this improved memory, which just means that as the brain gets stronger and those connections happen between each one of the neurons, as we get stronger, that like reminders can be less, as it changes from explicit memory to implicit memory. Very, very cool stuff. I like this part. So we have about 10 minutes left. Let's talk about instrumental learning. This is some more research on how brains and babies' brains work. So this one right here is when they put a baby in like the crib, and what they did is they actually put like a little rope in between the toy and the baby's foot. So it wasn't like they were like trapping the baby or anything like that, or like whatever, anything crazy. They just taught the baby that moving your foot moves this thing. And so they watched how long it took a baby to move their foot to watch this. Now, the trick was, if they took the string off, would this baby still move their foot? Yes, they learned. If I move my foot, it moves, it kind of shakes this whole situation enough to get that thing to move. So they learned, my foot does that. My thing does this. And so just that right there is a pathway or brain road that teaches them, if I reach out for grandma, maybe she'll pick me up. If I cry for a bottle, maybe somebody will bring it to me. If I move my foot, this thing will shake. They start to understand that their body can manipulate their universe in a good way, right? The cool thing is that it was very specific, meaning they gave the baby the same situation but changed the mobile or changed the toy, and they didn't move their foot. So they connected to certain things. My foot can only move that mobile. It can't move another one. Later, they do learn that my foot will move anything in the vicinity, right? So, but that's a little bit more of that more sophisticated brain that comes in the toddlerhood, right? And that's called generalized, right? Instrumental learning means I've learned this one task for this one result. Generalized means I've learned this one task and it'll give me multiple results. And so we'll talk about that later too. Look at this one, huge piece. I'm hoping to see some deep dives on this. Language development in the first 2 years is huge. Again, in our book, there's a quote or a support statement by Patricia Kuehl and I just forgot the other gal's name. Both of these women study babies' brains, and they have TED Talk. Oh, Alison Gopnik. So Patricia Kuehl has a TED Talk called The Linguistic Genius of Babies, and Alison Gopnik has a great TED Talk on what do babies know? Like, how do they learn? What have they learned? Guess what? Babies can learn before birth. Before birth. What? Language can be heard before the baby is born. So what kind of language do you want to expose them to? Like yelling, angry, or maybe regular conversations, or fun, or novelas? I don't know, right? So language, so babies start to hear things, and they can hear things outside the womb. It's not that they understand, but they respond to noise. They do. And again, talking to your baby, playing classical music, doing that whole 9 yards, that really does help. Think about the brain cells that are already being developed before they come out, right? Again, if eyes are still really weak, but the ears are strong, yeah, let's pump up those ears. The newborn, the preference for speech sounds and mother's language, they can tell. Again, there's that TED Talk on the linguistic genius of babies. It shows how babies like from Asia or babies from like English speaking countries, they can learn each other's language even at early stages. It's really interesting. Now, I love this one, gradual and selective listening, meaning they already learn how to tune certain things out. So if I'm using a certain voice, or if I'm scolding the dog, at first, maybe the baby thinks that that language or that scolding is going towards the baby, but after a while, they habituate. They learn that, oh, that's the voice a mom uses with the dog. And yes, I do talk to my dog like that, right? So I don't do that to humans because I think it's really pejorative. But I do it to my dog because she's my big baby, right? And then around 6 months, they were able to distinguish sounds and gestures in their own language. So it's interesting. You can say like, what's that? Or are you hungry? Are you ready? Yeah, it's really super fun. Let's see if I can find this one more. There's a really cute one. Now, I kind of alluded to this already that, when people hold babies and they're kind of talking with them like, oh, look at the big baby. Look at, you're just a big, strong boy, that kind of situation. Please move this window away from the shared application. Hold on. Let me read. Oof, like give me like a red line of something there. Hold on. Let me find this next video about, it's called Parent Ease. It's a type of language that parents do when you're with a baby. Now, under the age of 1, it's not a problem. When you're just talking to them in that little, it's called sing-song, and everything sounds like a question, and everything is light and frothy in the language, right? You could even be reading to them from your book using that same tone, and just like, oh, we're learning about cognitive processes. And once you just use that, they kind of, babies' ears attached to those voices, and over exposure time, you're creating more brain cells, more familiarity. Let's see if I have it in here. So again, in our, let's see, let me share with you. I'm going to show you all the stuff that I have in this module. I've been collecting and collecting and collecting. Let's share the screen. I'm going to share the screen so you can see all the stuff. Okay. So this is our module. Oh, my dog hears me. She's going to be outside the door. Here are some of the videos that I'm showing today with the chapter. But again, I put these deep dives in here. The girl with the half of her brain removed, the hemispherectomy, is right there. Here's a child with the TED Talk about he had a stroke at 10 days old and mirror neurons. Very cool. This is the dad here who talks about how to memorize the parts of the brain quickly. And here's the one I wanted to show you, right? I really do love language development because to me, having command of your language or the dominant language.
Down by 6. Time running out.
4th and long. He's never going to make it.
Formation, 4 wideouts. Here comes the snap.
Do this for me. Come on, I need this.
This is called Parent Ease.
Look at Daddy's boy. Look at Daddy's boy. Look at Daddy's boy. How's my mighty man?
Babies love it. And this sing-song speech helps them learn language.
Hungry? Yes?
You're my big, strong girl.
This blue. C'est vraiment très
So
joli.
pitch your voice high.
This is you, baby. Is that a nose?
And repeat your words.
Panda bear's nose?
You're helping your baby learn sounds and words.
Go get some spaghetti.
Babies learn sounds and words from you. For more information on parenting, visit pbsparents.org.
And isn't that so adorable? So if you noticed, it's in every language. It's not just in English. Every language, every culture on the planet has that sort of gentle way to talk to the babies. And it stimulates their brain, their ears are involved, and then there's more stimulation of the brain. And they're really looking at your face. The distinct color difference between an eye, the iris, and your white of your eye is very captivating for children. People don't realize that hair color, if you have like a big a color difference here, like if you have dark skin and light hair, or light skin and dark hair, they see, this is where they start seeing, and then they come down here, and then they meet your eyes. Then they also look at your mouth. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever been with a baby and started going like this with your tongue? And they start doing it? The fact that they can copy you, it's fantastic. That's all language development. Getting your tongue to work is language development. So we are about done, but I want to leave us with one cute video. This is one of my favorite ones. Again, when parents are talking, we're creating a language-rich environment, but when you hear it from your siblings, yeah, we get some reinforcement on language, but guess what? Babies have their own language, right? You guys have probably seen this next video from YouTube, because it went around and it's super, super cute. I swear that they know what they're talking about, but it would be so great to know. Exactly. So if you guys need to go at 11:40, you're welcome to do so, but you're welcome to do it. Oh my God, right? You see how there's this very intense conversation about something, right? But you also hear the baby's language that goes da 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 da. And this is called hollow speech or hollow language, meaning it has the sound of language, but and there's these placeholders of these words, and I'm sure they mean something, but it's like mimicking language and mimicking a conversation, which is amazing. That means that they're picking up on stuff. So I think the one with his hand on the fridge is like, yo, bro, let's crack this safe, man. And I got one sock to prove it that I mean business. And this guy over here is like, listen, we're going to get in trouble. I'm not taking the fall for you. Do you understand? And then you'll see this kid over here at the end. He does this towards it. He does this full body, like reaches toward, he's trying to like make his point across. It's almost like this dance move he does. It's hilarious. this mess you made down here? There we go, there we go, there we go. Up. Unbelievable. I think that is the most fascinating thing, especially when there's twins, right? I think that is so cool. They're just like going to town. There's another video where somebody does put in subtitles or whatever. It's hilarious. So we're going to leave. It says over here, my nephew who's 2 likes to pretend to read books to me and speaks gibberish like these kids. Yeah, this is language development. They start to, they'll pick up something that looks like a hairbrush. They'll be like hairbrush. They'll like pick up something that is not a phone and they'll be like, and they're pretending to be you. That means they're such on the verge of language development. It's really, really cool. And so I even saw a video, I don't know what it was, Peyton was showing me, and kids will start to pretend to be you, right? They'll be in the kitchen and they'll pretend to do stuff, or they'll pretend to vacuum, or they'll pretend to wipe, or they'll pretend to, you know, have a fake remote and turn the TV and stuff like that. There was a little girl sitting at her mom's computer, and apparently the mom was like customer service, because the little girl was probably like 3 years old and going, no, you need to pay your bill. This is what the computer says. So she's sitting there copying her mom at work. And I just thought, oh, this is the modern day copying mom at work. No, lady, pay your bill. Just like, oh, and the mom knew it. She's like, oh man, I've been working too much and she's been watching me too much. So yeah, it just shows you that language happens in this massive environment and the brain's always pulling it in. So if you're watching like, you know, Grand Theft Auto and you have your infant right there, probably not good, right? If you're watching like crazy movies and there's like F-bombs throwing out, aggressive tone, probably not great. You know, but language-rich environments are the best for language development. So whatever you put into that brain is whatever is going to stick, right? So cool. All right, if you guys have any questions, please stick around. But if not, you're welcome to go. 11:40. You guys can always just bail 11:40. I don't want to keep you past because I could talk about this forever. Super fascinated about it. Again, my child is a product of nature versus nurture because, again, he's not genetically mine, but by the age of 1, he could say hi. No, not age of 1. By the age of 2, he could say, hi, I'm Peyton. I'm hyperverbal. Because I am. Right? So good. All right, Molly, Cameron, Kaya, Isabel, I'll see you guys next time. Feel free to jump in on the forums. I'm going to send out a link for Wednesday and Thursday. Good. Yay. I'm going to stop recording right now.